Sam Logue here from Green Blood Boxing. Absolutely delighted to be joined by baby CANELO herself,
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing we'll get into. Amy Broadhurst. Thanks very much
Thank
for
you.
joining, Amy. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks. Not too bad. You know yourself, like everyone kind of getting through,
Keeping sane.
getting through every day. How have you been
Yeah.
handling? That's something I hadn't even thought about. How have you been kind of handling the pandemic? Obviously, kind of 1 year now.
Yeah. Last year was actually like, I was very happy to have a bit of a break because it was just constantly go, go, go. So I had a break there last year, and then I had an ongoing injury for the last couple of years that I got sorted in October.
Your wrist,
So
right?
I had a minor surgery on my wrist, and then I'm back in Dublin now, thankfully. So at the moment, like this whole level 5, it doesn't really affect me because I'm in Dublin Monday to Friday. So
Cool.
it's same for me. Like,
Yeah, brilliant. That's kind of one of the advantages of being a performance athlete, I suppose, in these times.
yeah,
But
thank God,
unfortunately, the
because I'd
rest
go
of us
off
don't
my
get a
head in the
phone call.
house.
Say again.
I'd go off my head in the house now if I was here all the time.
Stop. Have you got like a big family, or is it loads of people in the house?
No, it's just me and my mom and dad here at the moment. And then my brother had a baby boy there. Well, his woman had a baby boy in September. So he's
Wow.
kind of been keeping us all going as well. So it's
That's
grand.
class, yeah.
Yeah,
To kind of pay attention to in the midst of all this kind of negativity.
Yeah.
Class. So, I mean, let's kick it off. There's so many interesting things to talk to you about, actually, because you're a young amateur who's already achieved a lot, you know, with kind of quite obvious goals in front of you. But there's a big question mark about whether you'll turn pro, when you might turn pro. I think there's a lot of interesting things. There's even a few interesting narratives, you know, with kind of you were almost battling for position with Kelly Harrington, who obviously it was a kind of, I suppose, a household name almost at this stage in Ireland. So loads of interesting things to get into. But what I'd like to start with is, as I say, you've achieved a lot so far in your career. 5 times European champion, I heard you say. Now, 2 of them were under 22 European champions. Is that right? And 3 times, I presume, kind of as a junior.
Under those youth, junior, and youth, 2 juniors and a youth, and then I did a youth silver medal as well. So it wasn't too bad.
Not too bad at all.
Not too bad.
Through a little bit, like through your achievements and kind of what you've done so far for the people who maybe who've maybe heard your name but don't know exactly what you've achieved so far.
So I've 18 Irish titles. I have 5 European gold, 1 silver, and elite European bronze, and I have an English ABA title as well. So that's a mad one.
Now, that's an interesting one. Like we just spoke before we started briefly about that. Why don't you get into that for us? Because everyone's going to be like, you know, a girl from Dundalk. What's going on there? English champion somehow. So talk us through that. How did that happen?
Well, my dad's he's English, so he is. And if I really, really, really needed to, I could represent England. And then so I moved to London when I was 18 for just over a year and a half, 2 years, and I joined Islington Boxing Club over there. And I actually entered the ABAs one of the years while I was living over there, and I was working and I wasn't really actually focusing on boxing, and I got beat in the semi-final by, do you know Louise Orton?
Louise Owen. Not a name I would be familiar with at the moment, no.
Louise Orton.
Louise Orchid, no, sorry.
No. Well, she beat me anyway in the semi-final. So then when I moved home, I done the elites. I went to the Europeans, and then when I came home, Dad just says, do you want to do the English Championships at 64? So you don't have to make weight, because I'd float around at 62 kilos. So I says, yeah, no problem. So I went over at 64 anyway, and I think I had 3 fights over there, and I won it out. So it was just mad. So it was, because I had moved home I'd moved home at the end of 2017. So I won them in 2018. So it wasn't too bad, because I'm still affiliated with Islington.
Yeah. That's it's an interesting one, like, and going forward as well, it won't do you any harm, ironically, to have, you know, an English ABA title under your belt, because they love to talk about that in the pros, you know, ABA champion. It's something that you hear a lot of promoters and a lot of fighters talk about, you know, in terms of amateur pedigree and stuff. So it'll be an
Yeah,
interesting, if nothing else, an interesting narrative to have. We know how valuable Irish titles are, but they don't
yeah,
seem to value them the same, say, by an English promoter won't value that the same as an ABA
exactly.
title.
Yeah,
So it's definitely an interesting one. So
yeah,
your dad is English, which is something I didn't know, because your dad has coached you for a long time, isn't that right?
a long time. Yeah, he still coaches me.
Okay, so he's still your main coach as such.
Yeah.
So what can you talk us through, like, the move to England? Like, what kind of what prompted you to go? Was it just simply like for a different experience, or was it
Mm.
more about maybe the level of training that you could get over there, or, you know, what was the reason exactly for that?
Boxing wasn't really the reason why I went over. I think it was 2016 I moved over, and I just moved up from the youth and juniors to elite, and I was battling then to try and go to the world championships at 57 kilos.
Okay.
And they had Moira McElliott there, and it wasn't really happening for me. And my brother lives in England as well, so he just says, "Why don't you come over and just work, make a bit of money?" Because at the time I wasn't being funded.
Okay.
So I went over, and I still had the head guard and everything with me. So I did plan on joining the boxing club to keep fit.
Of course.
And then I think within a month of moving over there, I joined Islington. But I was still working. I was working in a restaurant here and there and doing bar work and everything. So I didn't, boxing really wasn't, it was kind of like a breather from the boxing, I think.
Okay. So, wow, like, I'm not sure would many people know that. Like, so it sounds like you kind of had almost, at least to some degree in your head, kind of gone, okay, maybe boxing isn't going to be my future. I'm going to go and just kind of experience something else and just kind of see what way it takes me. Would I be right in
Yeah.
saying that you were maybe doubting whether you wanted to stay in the game?
Not doubting, because I always kind of knew that boxing, I'd always come back to it. I
Yeah.
think that's where I see my future.
Yeah.
But I kind of, because I've been boxing from such a young age, I've been boxing since I was 6 years old. So because I give it my all, I didn't really experience like going out and having a good time or
Yeah.
just relaxing really, because there was always competition after competition and making weight, and it was difficult enough. So when I went over to England, then it was kind of like let the hair down a little bit and live your life a little bit rather
Okay.
than constantly, because I dedicate my whole life to boxing. I don't take the piss, if you say, like when I am at home. Like, so it was kind of, I could eat what I want, I could drink what I want, and there was nobody in my ear saying, "Here, you have a competition coming up, you can't be eating that." So
I
it
get you.
was a bit of a breather, I would say.
A break more so than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, still probably ticking over, as you said, in Islington, and still doing a bit of training, but maybe very much on your own terms. Whereas maybe
Yeah.
beforehand there wasn't as much.
Yeah. I actually, when I moved over there in 2016, I boxed in the Haringey Box Cup.
Yeah, very famous tournament.
Yeah. And I got gold there as well. So
Wow.
it wasn't so bad. Like boxing, it was still in my life, but I wasn't kind of taking it all seriously, really.
I get
But
you.
it was great. It was good to even to experience that competition, because it's a big competition.
Definitely. Do you think that
Yeah.
the kind of attitudinal shift from it being like such a big focus in your life to kind of maybe being slightly secondary at that time when you were in London, you know, or sorry, when you were in England? So like it was kind of wasn't the first thing, it wasn't the most important thing. You were a little bit more relaxed about it. Do you think that actually gave you, like, allowed you to perform better in ways where you're a little bit more relaxed? Did it affect you in that way?
Yeah. I
Interesting,
even
that, isn't
now
it?
to
Like,
this day, I say it. I think everyone, no matter who you are, I think not such a long break, but I think a month or two off does a whole lot of good to you. I even think now with because I haven't boxed in a year,
yeah,
just over a year, and I do think when I come back, I'll have improved again, because I had the break that I needed, and I'm growing as well. So it does you a world of good, I think.
yeah,
So I hadn't known this at the time, but when I moved back from England to Ireland, I had Europeans in Romania in the February.
okay,
And I was kind of nervous about them because I hadn't competed internationally in, I think, 3 years. So it was very nerve wracking, but I ended up doing very well over there, and I had improved So I do think the break does a lot of
Does
I
a lot
think
of good
it's
for you. Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah, it does a lot of good for sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think it's maybe something that some athletes neglect or don't understand because they're so
Mm,
preoccupied with like working hard, and maybe some people forget that you have to rest as well, and
yeah,
mental rest as well. That's the one thing
mental
I really
is
got
very
from.
important.
Yeah, that's the one thing I got from what you said there about going to England, was that it was a mental break more than anything else. Even
Yeah,
kept training and kept competing, and you won the Harringay Cup, but it was like, oh, it's okay, I can go out and have a drink maybe, or eat what I
yeah,
want, or yeah, exactly, or kind of enjoy
yeah.
life in a different place.
In
It's,
yeah,
do you know what I mean?
it was grand. I think it's not all physically in boxing. I think mentally holds a strong point. So
Definitely,
I think if you look after your mentality, then you're halfway there already.
100%, 100%.
Mm.
So you touched on it there earlier on that you had a wrist injury that you were kind of carrying for a while, and you only really got it, I suppose, finally fixed up. You had a small operation, you were saying.
Yeah,
Talk us through kind of what happened, and how long were you dealing with that kind of, I presume it was kind of niggly and was kind of getting worse over time. So how did that
yeah.
happen, and how did it affect you dealing with kind of knowing you had an injury and kind of having to box on it and dealing with that all the way up until you got it fixed?
Yeah. So again, when the reason why I actually moved home from London was because I broke my hand sparring. So
Okay.
I wasn't able to work and I wasn't able to do anything. So I moved home, and from then with my hand breaking, so I got my cast off, and within 2 weeks I had entered the under 22s, and I boxed with it like that. I didn't do no rehab or anything. So
Okay.
it kind of just, it was always there, and then it came to my wrist and doing weights and everything. I could feel it, but it wasn't getting in the way of anything. I was still able to punch, and but it was just annoying when I'd get out of the ring. It'd be sore, but it wouldn't be okay. You can't box because of that. I was still able to carry on, but it was just annoyance, really.
Yeah.
So, and when the first lockdown started last year, this is to me if I wanted to get the injection to see if it'd help, and it didn't. So I got I think I got an MRI scan done, and it came up that I had one bone bigger than the other.
Oh well.
So I had two options, whether to just clean it out and carry on with it, or to actually get the bone chiseled down. So I just got it cleaned out, and it's been grand. So it's not holding me back, and I'm actually, things are improving in training. So it's
Excellent.
not, it's done, it's helped me as well. So
Perfect. And it's
yeah,
completely, as you say, completely done now. You're over it, and you can kind of get back on top of things now and not have to worry about that, or just not have to deal with it. Like,
yeah,
what's that like when you have that niggly injury, and does it affect your mm, like your maybe does it affect your confidence, or does it affect your attitude when you're going into fights or going into
mm.
tournaments? Are you worried about it, or?
Nah, never. I wouldn't let any of that type of stuff get into my mind before a fight. Like I boxed with a fractured thumb before and everything. So it's not, I would never let it get in the way of, oh God, what if this happens or this could happen. It's
Yeah.
not, I get in to win. So it's the
Yeah.
name of the game.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair play. That's a very strong mentality. So fair play, because obviously there are, it would be understandable as well if that kind of played on your mind a little bit, like, oh, if you were hesitant to throw that hand because it was a bit sore, or you didn't want to do more damage to it. You know what I mean? Like there could be all
Yeah.
sorts of kind of psychological effects, but obviously you very much understood, like, oh no, it's not too bad. I can get in, and I can fight, and
Yeah.
it's the name of the game.
I will say though, when because I wasn't allowed to spar for a long time, when I came back, it was all just paddles and you had to build it up. And I think my first kind of spar, I was like, what if that was the only time I was like, what if it goes again? But it
Yeah.
was only sparring and it was okay. So it's not, I'm not worried about it at all now. So it's
Yeah.
not too bad.
Perfect. Perfect. Now you can kind of kick on with things. Um,
Yeah, thankfully.
I suppose that leads us nicely into all good, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about the Olympics. So you had said before that you wanted to go for the 2020 Olympics. Only a couple of years ago, I've seen you talk about wanting to go for the 2020 Olympics. And at that time, you would have been competing with Kelly Harrington for a position at 60 kilos, right? That's lightweight division.
Yeah.
You've since decided to kind of focus on 2024 in Paris rather than go for Tokyo. Kind of talk us through that, and talk us through kind of what that was like at the time when you were kind of hell-bent on going for Tokyo and kind of competing. Obviously, the older and more experienced at that time, Kelly Harrington.
Yeah. It was actually very difficult. So it was, I found that when I was going to train, I wasn't really focusing on myself. I was focusing on trying to do everything better than Kelly. And it wasn't actually benefiting me at all. So last year I kind of, I'm young. I'm so young and compared to everybody. And it took me a while to realize that. So last year I kind of looked at it and I thought, 2024, I'm going to be 27. So, and I'm at my prime then. So why not make these next 4 years about improving myself and getting better and then giving it a shot. And I still tried for 2020. And Bulgaria, I think last year was the decider of everything. And I got beat by Mira Pokinen in the first fight. So I kind of took it on the chin, and now I'm just focusing on 2024. So I'm a lot happier in that goal.
Yeah, I get you. So is there still a chance that you could have a box off for the 2020 or the 2021 now as it is Olympics?
Yeah, I know.
Is it completely kind of gone now? Is it like
it's completely done, even unfortunately for Grania Walsh? Do you know Grania?
Yeah.
The 69. So I don't know if it's been announced or not yet, but the IOC, I think, have decided that there's only going to be one qualifier. So
one in each weight? No, one girl, or what do you mean? Like one of what?
One. So do you know the way there was the first qualifier in London and then the second one in, I think, Paris?
One qualifying tournament. Sorry. I got a little bit lost there. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So that's out the window for both me and Grania. So it's disheartening, but at the same time, like, I was focusing on 2024 anyway, so I kind of was able to take it and not be upset over it. So
understandable. So is the goal then to kind of, in the meantime, so in the years between now and 2024, to kind of try to pick up those other medals in the meantime, so use them as kind of progression towards winning an Olympic gold medal, which I presume is the goal.
That's the goal.
Not going to just to qualify and show up, obviously trying to follow the footsteps of the likes of Katie and
even Kelly now 2020 this year. And even Michaela's a strong boxer, so there'll be the women's team now for can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah. The women's team for Ireland is very, very strong.
Yeah, very strong.
That is the goal now. Over the next 3 years, I have so much to look forward to. I have World Championships at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I have Europeans next year, and then European Games, and then there'll be another World Champ. It'll go like that. It's gonna fly. So
it will.
Yeah.
And you've only 3 years.
And it's all about improving. Yeah, exactly. Once these Olympics are out and the World Championships are around, there's 2021 gone already.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've 2022 to get through, and then I presume halfway through 2023 is going to be, you begin your qualifiers again. So it'll be here before I know it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
100%.
It'll be.
And because you'll be so busy in the meantime, it literally will be like click of fingers. It'll be around. So just briefly, talk to me about Michaela and Kelly's chances of taking home gold medals, or even a medal in general. But they're both going, I presume, to try and win the tournament. So at the Olympic Games, do you think they both have a good shot?
I think so. I think their results over the last couple of years speaks for itself. Kelly's world champion. She's one of the best in the world, and I think the girl that she's boxing to qualify, she beat just recently in Bulgaria, so she has a very good chance. And I think Michaela as well. Michaela is very good. Yeah. So it's a strong team. I know the 51 has lost and 69 unfortunately, but even Aoife O'Rourke 75.
Yep.
she's boxing brilliant at the minute as well. So I think the three of them having a brilliant chance of qualifying. I think the women's team is stronger than the men's.
Yeah. So in terms of like chances of kind of getting medals at the games, you think the women collectively
The
have
women,
probably a better chance?
yeah, 100%. And I'm
Yeah.
not just saying that because I'm a girl and I'm on their team. Like, I'm on the men's team too, but I just think the women is at the moment above them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like kind of collective rankings and kind of
Yeah.
performances at international events and stuff. Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, there's some of the men on the team there. It's brilliant. You have Kurt Walker, Brendan Irvine.
Yeah.
I think Kurt has actually qualified now for the Olympics because of, with there only being one tournament, the ranking. So I think he's qualified as well. So he has a brilliant chance.
That's right.
He's
Yeah.
very talented. So
They would be the two, wouldn't they? They'd be the two men that stand out. If you were to say like, okay, who has a chance of medaling from the men?
yeah,
Names I think that come up straight away.
yeah,
Interesting. Like it was interesting what you said there about your peak. You think you'll be at your peak age coming into the 2024 Olympics. So does that tell us that your primary goals and concerns in boxing in general are the Olympics and your kind of more your amateur career, rather than thinking, okay, I want to be going into the pros at the right time or peaking at a certain time in the pros? Do you know what I mean? So does that tell us that your primary focus is the Olympics?
yeah. I've since I was a young girl, my dream has always been to go to the Olympics, and I've never once thought, oh, I want to be a pro boxer. I want to go to the Olympics and win an Olympic gold. And then whatever comes after it,
Okay.
I'll see. Because my plan would be to go 2024 and 2028.
2028 as
and
well.
Then,
okay.
Yeah, because they're in LA. So I think it'd be unbelievable.
So it's location based. I want to go to America.
But you just honestly, you just don't know what's going to happen. I could get a pro offer tomorrow, and it could have a lot of money in it, and I could say, here, do you know what? There you go. Like, there you go. I'm pro. Anything can happen.
You never know. Exactly. You never
know.
Yeah. You could.
But I want to sign with the right person too.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you're saying that you kind of are your plan at the moment, at least, is that you want to go to 2028 Olympics in LA, as you said, but that would leave you being like 31. So if you were to turn pro, and that would be if you were to turn pro like straight after the Olympics. So that
doesn't worry me.
Yeah, that's not an issue for you at all.
Not at all, because if you look at the likes of Katie Taylor, I think Katie was 31 when she turned pro, and Kelly at the moment she'll be 31 this year. And if she's going to go pro, she'll be the same age. And Katie's doing amazing. And I'm sure Kelly do the same. And even Michaela's 28 this year. So there's the time isn't everything in boxing. You could go into look at Mira Pocken, and she's 40.
Yeah.
And she's still boxing. So
I'm not doing very well.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried at the moment.
Okay. So that's interesting in terms of your attitude towards the pros. So obviously you've said that it's not your main goal. Your main goal has always been the Olympics. But so I want to explore that a little bit more with you. Like, so why 2 Olympics? Why not one and do well, medal, hopefully win, but at least a medal, and go in and get a good lucrative deal as a pro and try and, achieve world titles as a professional? Why 2 Olympics rather than that?
No one else has done 2 Olympics.
Okay.
2 Olympic medals.
2 Olympic medals from Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, Katie's done 2 Olympics. She got gold, and then unfortunately didn't medal at the second one. But if I'd do that. There's an achievement in itself.
Okay. And so does that tell us that you're not motivated really by money?
Not really, I'm not too sure, to be honest. If it depends on what sort of offer you got. If someone offered me 100 grand tomorrow to turn pro, I would say no. Yeah. Because I'll make that an amateur.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing I want to go into. Sorry for cutting you off there. Like, I don't think people know or understand how it works as a top level amateur. So presume at this stage you're carded, right, by Sport Ireland. So that means that like you get kind of funded quite well to be an amateur boxer, you know, as a performance boxer who's going to win medals for the country, etc., at the Olympics and stuff. So obviously it must be, and without going too much into your details here, I don't want to, you know, invade your privacy, but it's obviously you make enough of a living from that, and with sponsorship and stuff like that, especially if you win tournaments. Do you see that as that's sufficient for you to kind of to make some money, rather than having to turn pro to make money?
I think there's definitely a lot more money in pro if you have the right promoter.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more money to be made in the pros than there is in the amateur game, because it's good money if you reach the very, very, very top, which I'm not on. But then what you get at the very, very top in amateur, you could nearly make in one fight as a pro. So I think I'd make more as a pro.
Okay.
Like if I had Eddie Hearn promoting me and I was boxing against one of his top girls, then you're gonna have a nice bit of money in the bank then in the morning after the fight.
Definitely,
so
yeah. Definitely.
It'd be a lot more than what we get as an amateur. So
Okay, interesting. So then like, what's the thinking? Because obviously going forward, you're still quite young now, 23, right? But going forward, obviously you have to make money. You have to kind of be able to fund yourself, you know, to make a living going forward. So
yeah,
what do you have anything in mind for? Because it sounds like it's not necessarily, you're not 100% gonna turn pro. It sounds like it's kind of it
if it
sounds like to
happens, it
me that
happens.
you might and you might not. You know what I mean? You're looking for two
Yeah.
Olympics. You'll be 31 by the time the second Olympics comes around. So you may or may not turn pro. Of course, as you said, a lot can change in the meantime. But do you have anything else in mind? Do you have like, would you like to coach, or is there kind of another career path that you've thought about that you might like to pursue after boxing?
I think the way I look at it is, because obviously I want to have a family as well.
Okay.
So I don't want to be too old having a family. So the way I was thinking of it would be to get to the next two Olympics and then have a family. But if I went to the next Olympics, if I went to 2024 and Eddie Hearn offered me an amazing deal, I'm not going to turn it down.
Yeah.
Because I've got to the Olympics, and that's been my goal from day one. It's been the number one goal. And trying to outdo Katie Taylor isn't going to be my main goal, because it'll be very hard to do. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just take one step at a time, really, because I think thinking way too far down the line isn't good at all. So,
yeah, true. We're speculating a bit here. We're talking like very
but 10
hypothetical.
years down the line.
Yeah, 10 years down the line. Yeah. No, 100%. It is interesting, because someone like yourself, I kind of would have thought, like I've heard Kelly say, for example, that, you know, the likelihood is that she won't turn pro. She's kind of like, you know, someone's going to have to come up with the kind of offer that you can't say no to in order for her to turn pro, right? But it always seemed to me like you were a lot more open, or even that you wanted to turn pro, like that you saw that in your future. But it is interesting to see how it seems like you're still a bit like, well, the Olympics is the main thing and we'll kind of see how it goes. That is interesting.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the state of women's boxing. I suppose particularly in the pros, because that's where we've seen like a massive shift, particularly. I'd say like a lot of it is thanks to Katie. I mean, you've got like Clarissa doing her thing in the States, and but I think Katie has definitely, she's to answer for it for a lot of it. Like, what do you think of women's boxing at the moment? You know, professional boxing. It's obviously growing, but what's your kind of take on it? You know, how it's gone over the last few years?
Yeah, I'm probably going to offend a few people here, because I think it's doing a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
And I think the two people to thank is actually Katie Taylor and Clarissa Shields. But at the same time, there's a lot of the girls out there that I haven't a clue who they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there's there's somebody from England I actually seen who's a pro boxer, and she's doing very well, but I've never ever heard of her as an amateur, or I don't know. It's a bit crazy. Whereas when you look at the amateur cards like there in Bulgaria and the boxing tournament, you see different girls coming up against different people, and you're thinking that'll be a good fight. Or whereas in the pros, if you tell me the majority of the girls Katie's boxed, I don't know, and a lot of people don't know. So it's still starting off. I think you obviously know Caroline Dubois.
Yeah. Yep.
I think when she goes pro, it'll get even more exciting because she's a very strong boxer, and she'll just be good for the game, I think.
Yeah.
So over the next few years, I think it'll get a lot better. It's good at the moment, but you kind of want it to be where the men's is.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously it has grown a lot, and I think, as you say, a lot of it down to Katie and Clarissa. But it's interesting that you say that you still don't really know a lot of the boxers. And do you think do you think that the promoters and the broadcasters could do more for women's boxing, or do you think actually that they are doing a lot now, a lot more than they used to? Where do you put the burden of blame, I suppose, you know what I mean, for women's boxing, not for you, say, for example, for you not knowing the names of most of, say, someone like Katie Taylor's opponents?
Yeah.
We're just not at that stage yet, or is there kind of more of a blame to place?
That's a hard question. I don't think anybody is to blame, really. I think Eddie Hearn's trying his best for Katie to get her all the good fights.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, maybe you'd know a lot more about it than me, because I'm not really too clued in with the women's boxing as a pro. But before Katie and Clarissa went pro, was women's pro boxing even on any of the cards in America?
Not really. Like, you would have had the odd fight, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think because you have two big names as a pro now, that's why it's getting bigger. Whereas if they'd never went pro, would pro women's boxing actually be as big as it is now?
Okay, interesting.
I don't know. I'm probably tracking off to a different different subject, but it's just difficult to tell, really.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a tough one, like, but it has grown a lot now in the last while. Do you look at any of those pros and like kind of, world champion pros, or kind of there's a lot of girls now that we would know in England, because of the likes of Eddie and the likes of Chantel Cameron, not too far away from your weight class.
Terry Harper is very good.
Terry Harper's very good.
Yeah.
Natasha Jonas, who you would obviously know, and a lot of people might know, as she was boxing around the same time as Katie. Katie beat her in the Olympics, I'm pretty sure, in the semi-final, quarterfinal. Anyway, are there any of them boxers that you look at? Yeah, I can't remember. Memory shot. Are there any of them pros that you look at and think, I could compete with them now, or I could beat them now? Like, their technical ability is not that far ahead of me, or isn't ahead of me at the moment?
No, there's a few that I'm not going to say any names, but there's a few there that I'd be watching, and I would think I could get in with them.
Yeah.
And beat them, but at the same time, amateur and professional is completely different.
Yeah.
So you could put me in with them for 3 rounds and I'll beat them, but then after the 3rd round, what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, that's another story. That's where the format, it's almost like a different sport in terms of how it's formatted. Like, yeah.
But ability-wise, I'd have confidence in myself that I'm up there already with them.
Yeah, definitely. That's good to hear. Yeah. So talking about the kind of women's boxing and where it is at the moment, there was an interest, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. I don't know if you have too much of an opinion on it, but I'll ask you anyway. There has been a bit of a discussion over the last few months about kind of equal pay for the women in boxing. You had the likes of Heather Hardy, who, I don't know if you know Heather Hardy's former world champion at featherweight or super featherweight. She boxed in a unification with Amanda Serrano there, like only less than a year ago. Like, she has Irish roots as well, but she's very good. She actually fights in Bellator as well, as a pro MMA fighter. She signed to Lou DiBella. I'm sure you know Lou DiBella, promoter.
No. No.
Big promoter in the US. He's had like Tevin Farmer and loads of other big
Oh,
big
okay,
names. He
okay,
promoted
yeah.
Paulie Malignaggi for a long time and stuff. But she was just one of the ones that was very vocal, who came out and kind of placed a lot of blame on the likes of Eddie Hearn, who ironically is doing probably more for women's boxing in the pros than anyone else.
Yeah, I think he's
That
doing a lot for women's boxing.
he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, we know more professional women boxers now. Like we know the names of those girls now more than ever because of Sky, in my personal opinion. But she came out and kind of placed a lot of blame on the likes of Eddie for the pay not being the same, you know, for women getting paid less. What's your kind of opinion on that? Like, actually, just what's your opinion on that before I kind of weighed in a little bit more on like kind of equal pay between women and boxing?
I think if they're going to do equal pay, then women should be boxing 12 3-minute rounds for a start, though.
Okay, interesting.
But then at the same time, that's the only difference.
Yeah.
And just at the moment, men's professional boxing is a lot bigger.
Well, that seems to be the big thing, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
it's at the end of the day, real equality. I'd say this is like the likes of Eddie is saying, like real equality is that you get paid based on your drawing power. You know, you get paid based on the figures you produce. So if you draw a big crowd, you get paid more money, and that's how it works with the men as well. So
yeah,
that's like his point, what he came out and said. It's like it's nothing to do with, you know, workplace inequality or something like that. It's like it's a product, and if the product doesn't sell as well as another product, then it doesn't get as much money. Do you know what I mean? So is that something that you kind of agree with or on board with, or do you think that women should be getting kind of raised purses just in general?
I think the money should be. Well, I don't know how much women are getting for the fights. I wouldn't know how much Katie's getting, but
yeah,
if you said to a group of men on the street, would you rather go see CANELO box or one of the Serrano sisters? They're always going to pick CANELO.
yeah.
So there's more money already being thrown into men's boxing because you have more viewers, whereas the women, is there enough money to actually hand out there in the women's boxing compared to the men's?
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that like if the viewership wants to watch men more so than it does women, so therefore they should be paid like in relation to that, you know, in relation to the viewership and the popularity of it. So I suppose it's up to the fighters themselves maybe to try and promote themselves, but also it's up to the promoters who promote them to try and get them out there and get their names out there to obviously to make them more known and make them more marketable to the public. To be fair to
I
her,
think she's not a boxer, but you know Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, of course.
I think she done a lot for UFC boxing just because of she was kind of like a Conor McGregor, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Of UFC. So if you had a couple of more of them in boxing, you'd be flying. But I think there's just like Katie, for instance, is very quiet. She's very like you could say something to her and she'll not retaliate.
That's exact. I was literally about to start talking about the exact same thing. Do you think that the women, not that they need to be, but do you think that they could be a bit more vocal and try to be, maybe draw a little bit more attention that way? Like as you touched on there, Katie wouldn't bat an eyelid to anything.
Never. No, and I think that's why earlier on I said about Dubois coming into the pros.
Yeah.
I think she'll be vocal, and I think it'll bring a lot of excitement. Whereas you have, like, even Terry Harper, she's a lovely girl.
Yeah.
And she's not very vocal in that kind of way.
Yeah.
So you could have a few people, but at the same time you want it to come naturally and not show that you're just doing yeah.
It shouldn't be forced, because you can tell, you see a lot of Americans are very guilty of that. Like, and I don't want to be biased against the Americans, but you see a lot of UFC guys and a lot of American guys, they try to force the trash talk, and it's just very transparent. You can see through it. Like it doesn't feel, it feels uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Whereas, you know, when it's real, like the likes of say a Tony Bellew or like Conor McGregor, when people like that, when they're kind of trash talking or whatever, it's flowing, it's natural, it's funny, it's, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
people feel they like it.
It invites people in to watch it.
Yeah, 100%. But if it's not,
Yeah.
if it feels like disingenuous, if it doesn't feel real, it's kind of, it's not nice to look at. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Picking it back up here, Amy has changed location in order to keep this interview alive, so I do appreciate it. Oh, that's interesting. Straight away, I can see a few medals behind you there. Do you want to show us them?
Are
they your medals?
They're mine, yeah. There's 4 of the European gold on it.
Class.
And then this one up here is the Queen's Cup in Germany. So,
okay.
And I have, I don't know if you can see it, the ABA.
Very good. It's a belt, is it?
Yeah.
So I'd say that was kind of cool to get as well. It's a little bit different, right?
Say that again?
I'd say that was cool to get. Do you get belts for winning the Irish Championships as well?
A cup. We have the Elite Championship would be a cup, yeah.
So I'd say the belt was cool.
So completely different.
Yeah.
It was unreal, so it was. Yeah. And then last year in Russia, not to be rude towards any of the countries, but some of the medals we got were like plastic ones. You wouldn't be.
Really?
And then last year in Russia, 2 years ago in Russia, the European medal was unbelievable. He got a belt and everything, so he did. So
that's class.
I was like, if I lose this now, I'll be fuming, because the 1 year that they're cracking medals then. But I thankfully took one home. So
that's class. Yeah, you look at it and you're like, I'm not leaving without one of them medals.
Yeah.
That's deadly. So like, one thing I'm interested in, which I haven't really done this yet, but I've been meaning to go in this direction, is I want to kind of know a little bit about you outside of boxing. It's something that I always have the intentions of doing this whenever I'm talking to anyone, but I kind of always forget. And I made a point of not forgetting it today. Like, tell me a little bit about Amy Broadhurst, I suppose, outside of boxing. Like, what do you like to do? What are you interested in? Like, what does a full-time athlete do in their spare time? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would, in my spare time, I try mix it up a little bit. Like, I'd go before lockdown, I'd be in the cinema a lot with my friend. I used to love going to the cinema, but obviously you can't do that no more. And then I have a wee dog, so I do, and I take him for a walk. Even today we were up the mountains.
Class.
So just to like relax really, and then shopping. I love shopping. I'm very bad. My dad actually says to me, he said, anytime I have a bit of money, he's like, you have a disease, because straight away I'm shopping.
Burns a hole in the pocket, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, stop. I'm the same.
I go through wardrobe.
Yeah. Yeah. Clothes, is it?
Yeah.
You go through them spats though, don't you? I go through them little spats of kind of money burning a hole in my pocket. I just see something like, just buy it. You know what I mean?
Fuck it. Like, oh God, sorry.
Say again?
I'm not allowed to curse, am I?
Say again? You can say whatever you want on here.
Oh,
say whatever you want on here. There's no,
like, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it, exactly. I curse that, don't worry about it.
In the same hole.
No, yeah, you can say whatever you want here, Amy. No problem at all. Yeah, that's interesting. So, like, so like, what kind of hobbies, or what would you do outside of boxing? Like, do you like any other sports, or? Like,
I love football. Football, yeah. I used to play soccer. I used to play soccer and Gaelic when I was younger, up until I was about 15, and I was told you have to choose which one you want to continue in, and obviously I chose boxing. But I love football. I support United, so I'd watch their games whenever they're playing. And then what else would I be doing? My brother's big into tennis. Yeah. And then my friend's actually having a baby at the moment, so nothing can really be done, and especially with lockdown as well, there's not much to be done. I'd like to go after every tournament, I'd like to just dress up and go out.
Yeah. And
just let the hair down and relax and just be a 23-year-old woman instead of constantly in leggings and training and sweaty all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Is that kind of I think that's something that maybe a lot of people don't realize, is that it can be quite hard to live such a singular lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like so fully
Yeah.
focused. I mean, is it something that you've kind of thought over more recent times, and especially since you moved to England for those few months? Have you thought like you want to try and balance your lifestyle a bit more where possible? So like kind of making time for going out, say like that, you know, when we're not in a pandemic, and say you can go out and you can
Yeah.
go for a dance or whatever. Like, is it something that you've thought, okay, I need to make sure that I do actually make time to let my hair down and have a couple of drinks and go out with my friends and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Is it?
Not too much, because I know last year before lockdown I was out because I had a break, and I'd been out a few times, and I remember just thinking it's something I would like to be doing all the time.
Yeah.
It's nice when you're after training so hard for a competition and you go and you actually do well at the competition. It's nice to come back and wind down.
Definitely.
I think that feels better than going out every second weekend. And I think now at the moment I train 6 days a week, so every Sunday I'd have off, and I enjoy that. I'd put makeup on, or I'd like just relax and be normal for a day, really,
Yeah.
rather than training twice a day and just solely focusing on boxing. It's nice to forget about it for a wee while.
Yeah, definitely. Good for your head. Like,
Yeah.
so, just last thing kind of on outside of boxing, I'm pretty sure you had like an affiliation with Dundalk Institute of Technology, right? Did you train there for a while, or you were using their gym or something?
DKIT.
DKIT, yeah.
Yeah. I'm still in their gym. They sponsor me, so they do. So whenever I'm home, I'm allowed to use their gym whenever I feel like it. So they're a big help to me as well.
Yeah.
I have a lot of help around Dundalk. I have a lot of people backing me, which is great. Like the credit union support me, Dundalk Credit Union. There's a man called Jerry McNamee. He actually lives in England. I'm not sure whether it's Leeds or not, but he'd be supporting me a lot as well. So
Excellent.
It's great to have, and he's originally from Dundalk, but it's great to have such backing.
Yeah,
And
you're a real local celebrity there, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that, not at the moment.
Oh, I don't know. Not from what I've seen. You really have like the kind of support of your community there is one thing I really know, which is lovely. But what I wanted to touch on slightly there with the kind of reference to DKIT is, did you ever go to college, or did you ever think of, is there something that you would ever like to do? You know, just thinking a little bit outside the boxing box as such.
Yeah.
You thought about?
So when I was doing my leavings there, I had this idea that I wanted to be an English and geography teacher. Okay. So I applied for, liberal arts in Dublin.
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
It's a course anyway. It would have been a back way into doing teaching, and so I went for an interview and I got accepted into it, and I just ended up saying I'm just going to focus on my boxing. Yeah. But now recently I would like to do like a PT course or something.
Deadly. Okay.
And look into it, because you get to an age now. I'm at an age where I'm kind of like anything can happen.
Yeah.
And I've nothing behind me. So God forbid, touch wood, if I got an injury and I couldn't continue boxing, what have I got? It's something to definitely look into, and it's something I'd encourage people who, if you're 17, 18, you're kind of like, no, boxing's all I want. Do good in your leaving cert so you can always have something to back you up.
Yeah.
Because it's actually a very, very hard sport to make it in.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and like you said there as well, like it's a combat sport. I mean, injuries can happen quite easily.
Yeah. It's scary how quickly they can happen.
Definitely. You've seen it before. Like, so the last thing I'll talk to you about then, Amy, and thank you so much for your time. I know I've taken up a lot of your evening, but I appreciate it. I don't know if we still have Amy there. She may have just lost connection.
Hello?
Have I got you back?
Right, you got me back.
I only lost you there for a sec, no problem. So the last thing I want to touch on before I let you go, and I have taken up a lot of your time, so thank you for that, is is Canelo. Saul
Oh,
Canelo Alvarez,
you're
your
going to be
favorite
here for
fighter,
another
right?
hour now.
So I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time, and this will be the last thing that I talk to you about. You could probably talk about Canelo all night, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm after saying. You'll be here for another hour.
Listen, it's no problem for me. We'll cut the video up. We'll send it out in segments. No problem. We can have an hour just talking about Canelo because I love him as well, to be honest. But
He's unreal.
he's excellent. I think kind of probably undoubtedly at the moment, like pound for pound number one.
Yeah.
Hard to say anything else. But you know, I suppose why such a big fan? When did that start? You know, kind of what are the reasons for kind of loving Canelo as you do?
Yeah. It started about 7 years ago. I was going to the World Championships, and I remember being on YouTube, and I was just typing in like motivational videos, and he popped up, and so I clicked into it and I was watching him, and then I just started following him from there, and I just got this obsession with him. And I've been following him ever since. I stayed up for all of his fights. I haven't missed any of his fights now over the last 7 years.
Wow.
I'm a diehard fan, and
That's
it
impressive.
annoys me. It annoys me so much when there's people putting up that he's the best ever, and then they're cheering on the likes of Billy Joe Saunders now in a couple of months. They're
Yeah.
cheering him on, and then when Canelo beats him, it's going to be, oh, Canelo's the best again. That annoys me.
Do you think it's just because when someone is so dominant that, you know, a lot of people, they kind of cheer for the underdog, I suppose?
I think so, and I don't know, because I think Canelo, not being biased, but he's a likable character.
Yeah, he is a likable
There's
character.
no, I think I seen Eddie Hearn said that when he's in the room, you know there's a champion in the room, and it's just of his presence. It's not, there's no ego or look at me and look what I have, I'm the best. Like, it's just, he just wants to be the best, and I think that is a great way to be for anybody.
Yeah, 100%. So talk to me about, obviously you had a couple of fights recently, you know, within very quick succession of each other. Firstly, box Callum Smith, which everyone thought, and to be fair, I thought as well, I didn't think that Smith would win the fight, but I thought that, you know, Cam Smith is like top level elite. Like this could be an interesting fight, you know. Callum
and the height difference as well.
Sorry, big height difference.
The height was mental.
Crazy.
I remember, look, was it the weigh-in when the first had the first head-to-head?
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, like he could actually be in a bit of trouble here because of how big he was. But I think Canelo's camp just adapts to everything.
Yeah. It was a complete shutout, wasn't it? Like, I don't think Smith won a minute of the fight.
Did you see the tactics that they had?
Unbelievable, wasn't it? To kill the arm.
Like, yeah. Who would come up with that? Matt, and it worked.
It's smart, isn't it? It's a bit dirty or something, but it's very smart, like.
A little bit, but it worked. So
yeah,
that was the main thing.
So clever. I mean, they took away Cam Smith's best weapon, didn't they? The kind of catch counter left hook.
Yeah. Even I
smart.
think was it the last round where they kind of give each other a wee smile because he knew.
Yeah.
He just kept whacking him on the left arm.
I was kind of upset for Callum Smith because I'll personally be a big Callum Smith fan. I think he's excellent. Like, but it just, I have to say, I was so impressed with Canelo there. He showed that he's just levels above that. Like, what do you think technically, like from a technical perspective, what is it that he does that separates him? Like, do you think there's but there's probably not one thing, but where is he so superior? Like, I would tend to think it's about a lot of it comes down to like his judgment of distance and his kind of ability to manipulate and manage distance. As well as being very fast. Like, what do you think it is?
Thing that I think he does, like, he can do everything. I know people thought that when he first boxed Triple G, because he was on the back foot, that he had lost. But if Mayweather done that, you'd say Mayweather won because that's what he was good at. But because Canelo's such a go-forward fighter, because he came out and counter-punched nearly for the whole fight, all of a sudden he shouldn't have won. So, but I just think in every fight he shows that he can do everything.
Yeah.
But there's one thing he does that I absolutely love. Obviously, his head movement is unreal. Yeah. But he just sees a punch coming, but he turns his head with it to take the impact off it. And I know in the ring, how would you, for me anyway, I'm kind of like, how would you be able to see that coming and turn with it all the time? I think it's amazing that he can do that.
Yeah. So like his reactions basically to shots coming at him and stuff.
Yeah, and his head movement, I think, is doing a lot of benefit for him at the moment.
Yeah, like his ability to stand in the pocket, like to be within range, but to not get hit and land his own shots is exceptional.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that like upper body movement and head movement with what you said there, like I think his ability to see the shots and even to kind of know what his opponent's going to do, I think he's also very good at that, like a kind of drawing certain reactions from his opponent. So he knows where, like, he has a good idea what punch is coming. So he knows what to be ready for. You know what I mean? And then he can kind of turn with it. Excellent. Yeah.
And then obviously his power is just like he's hurting men bigger than him.
Yeah. Like,
because he's actually quite small. He's not your tallest man ever. Like he's just a bit taller than me. Like I think he's 5'10".
Yeah, he's not.
And he was getting in with Callum Smith, who's like 6'4", is it?
Yeah, 6'4", I think. Yeah, 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
They're giant, like.
But do you know his coach?
Eddie Reynoso, yeah.
I think he has a lot to play in it as well, though. I think Canelo's very talented, but over the last year or two, you nearly need to give your hat off to him as well, because when you look at Canelo, Ryan Garcia, you have, who else do you have? He has a Cuban there and Oscar Valdez.
Yeah, and he has Julio Cesar Martinez, the WBC champion. Yeah.
And now he has Andy Ruiz. And if Andy Ruiz gets in and boxes very, very well in his next fight, you'd like to see what he's going to do now, because he's with Reynoso, because I think I rate him a lot as a coach.
Yeah, me too. Like he seems to be working wonders for them lads. And if nothing else, they gain a lot of confidence from being in the camp as well. I think there's a big air of positivity, and like they all kind of absorb Canelo's energy and kind of feed into the whole to that camp in general. You know what I mean? They really feed off it. And that's probably one thing that Reynoso does as well, is it really creates like a really good atmosphere.
Yeah. I think the only problem is he doesn't speak English.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, if he wanted to sign me in the morning, I'd say, yeah, no problem.
What, train with Canelo? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Get on the first flight to Mexico. That's it.
So that you just never know what's going to happen. So
yeah, 100%. Just have to learn a bit of Spanish, Amy. No problem.
I've been trying anyway.
Have you? Yeah.
A little bit.
What are you trying? Are you doing like
now? About a year ago, when I was trying to teach myself, but
excellent.
I'm not too good at it.
What are you trying to do it on like an app or something, or have you taken some lessons? Or
do you know Duolingo?
Duolingo, yeah.
I was on that, but I only know like random words.
Yeah.
Here and there, so I would never be able to have a conversation with any of them.
The next time you'll have to keep doing a bit, and the next time we'll speak a bit of Spanish. I studied Spanish. So
no, you didn't. Did you actually?
Yeah, and it's a little bit, it's a bit rusty at the moment, but it's not too bad. I can still communicate, but it's a little bit rusty. So the next time I'll have to
I'll have a conversation with you next time.
That's it. Como estás? Bien. All the basics. We'll get the basics down there.
No bother. That's a deal.
Perfect. Amy, look, I'll let you go now. I really appreciate your time. I really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you.
And hopefully we will catch up again sometime.
Yeah.
I look forward to kind of seeing how you progress now, and kind of hearing about the next kind of tournaments you're going to enter and stuff, and seeing some results and stuff. And hopefully we can catch up again.
Yeah, definitely.
Not too far
into the future. Spanish conversation.
Yeah, that's it. Look,
all right.
Thanks very much. Right, Sam Logue here for Green Blood Boxing. Delighted again to be joined by Amy Broadhurst. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million for having me. Thank you.